Imagine for a moment that something you've been told is good for you, something you've been encouraged to consume for energy, for metabolism, even for heart health, might actually be quietly setting the stage for the very thing you fear most, a heart attack or stroke. That's the paradox we're facing today with niacin, also known as vitamin B3. This vitamin has been celebrated for decades because of its role in helping our cells produce energy, keeping our skin healthy, supporting nerve function, and even lowering cholesterol in certain medical settings. It sounds like an all-around hero, but here's the twist. Recent science is showing us that too much niacin, the very nutrient we believed would protect us, may in fact be contributing to cardiovascular harm. You see, niacin is everywhere. It's in meats, fish, whole grains, and leafy greens. But in our modern world, it's not just those natural sources. It's in fortified breads, cereals, and packaged foods. It's in energy drinks. It's in multivitamins. And when you add all of those up, the average American today is consuming around 48 milligrams of niacin daily. That might not sound like much, but it's over 3 times the recommended daily allowance. And it's creeping close to the upper limit, 35 milligrams a day, the threshold set to help prevent adverse effects. This means that many people are unknowingly taking in more niacin than their bodies can safely handle. The danger doesn't appear right away. Niacin doesn't cause an immediate heart attack after a single dose. Instead, it leaves behind metabolic byproducts, compounds your body produces as it processes the vitamin. One of these byproducts, called 4-PY, has been identified in recent NIH and NHLBI studies as a powerful predictor of heart disease. What's remarkable is that 4-PY doesn't just circulate quietly, it actively fuels inflammation within blood vessels. It promotes the buildup of plaque, destabilizes arteries, and raises the risk for catastrophic events like heart attacks and strokes. It's like a slow-burning fire in your cardiovascular system, often unnoticed until it's too late. And when niacin intake crosses that safe threshold, the body sends signals. People experience flushing, and uncomfortable redness and warmth in the face and chest. With continued overuse, the stakes rise: liver toxicity, insulin resistance, metabolic acidosis, and in extreme cases, liver failure. These aren't just abstract side effects. They're reminders that vitamins, though natural and essential in the right amounts, can act like drugs when overdosed. What makes this even more pressing is the psychology behind it. We live in a culture where more feels like better. If a little niacin supports energy, then surely a lot must supercharge vitality, right? If niacin can lower cholesterol at medical doses, then an extra tablet from the pharmacy shelf must give us an edge. But biology doesn't work that way. The body operates on balance, not excess. And the very act of trying to outsmart nature with high-dose supplementation often leads us into dangerous territory. So here's the call I want to leave with you today. Before you reach for that fortified energy bar, before you swallow another pill from a bottle that promises more strength and stamina, pause, look at the labels, add up your daily intake, ask yourself if what you're consuming is truly necessary, or if it's silently raising your cardiovascular risk. Talk with a trusted health professional before making supplements a habit. The truth is, you don't need more. You need enough. One of the most profound lessons in medicine is that healing isn't about piling on. It's about balance. It's about harmony. And sometimes the most powerful step toward protecting your heart is not in what you add, but in what you learn to keep in check. There's a phrase we've all heard countless times: get your vitamin D, it's good for your bones, good for your immune system, good for your overall health. And that's true. Vitamin D plays a vital role in helping us absorb calcium, maintain strong bones, and keep our immune defenses ready. For many, it's even called the sunshine vitamin, a natural gift that our skin produces when sunlight touches it. Pair it with calcium and you have what seems like the perfect duo for health and vitality. But here's the problem. When we push this duo too far, when we move from balance into excess, that same combination can turn against us, damaging the very organ it was meant to protect, our heart. Vitamin D supplements are everywhere, and the message around them has been so positive that it's easy to believe more must be better. But high doses of vitamin D don't just strengthen bones, they can raise blood calcium to dangerous levels, a condition known as hypercalcemia. And once calcium levels rise too high, the heart is one of the first organs to suffer. People may feel nauseated, confused, or weak, but underneath those symptoms, calcium is stiffening blood vessels, triggering abnormal heart rhythms, and in severe cases directly injuring cardiac tissue. This isn't speculation. It's well documented by leading institutions like the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and others. What makes it even more concerning is how silent this process can be. Calcium doesn't just float freely in the bloodstream in excess, it begins to deposit in places it doesn't belong. It calcifies arteries, stiffens vessel walls, and contributes to the progression of atherosclerosis. In plain language, too much vitamin D can transform flexible, healthy arteries into rigid pipelines prone to blockages. Over time, this greatly increases the risk of heart attack, stroke, and heart failure. Studies published in respected journals have confirmed that excess vitamin D correlates with vascular calcification and cardiovascular damage. There are also real-world stories that remind us of the seriousness of this risk. An 89-year-old man in the UK took high doses of vitamin D every day for 9 months. He believed it was helping him stay strong. Instead, his calcium levels skyrocketed, his kidneys and heart began to fail, and tragically he lost his life. This isn't fear-mongering, it's a sobering reminder that vitamins are not harmless just because they're natural. They are powerful compounds that must be treated with respect. And here's another crucial point: high-dose vitamin D doesn't provide extra heart protection. Large-scale studies led by organizations like the NIH and Johns Hopkins show that while vitamin D deficiency should be corrected, going above and beyond normal levels offers no added cardiovascular benefit. In fact, it can be harmful. The truth is, for most adults, moderate intake, through safe sun exposure, balanced diet, or carefully measured supplements when medically indicated, is enough. More isn't better, more can actually be worse. So the real message here is about wisdom. If you're taking vitamin D, especially alongside calcium, make sure it's for the right reason, in the right amount, and ideally under medical supervision. Get your blood levels checked, know your numbers. Because what you think is helping you might, in silence, be laying the groundwork for long-term damage. The heart is too precious to gamble with. Protecting it isn't about chasing megadoses or following trends, it's about balance, caution, and listening to what the science tells us. Sometimes the greatest act of care is not in adding more, but in knowing when enough is truly enough. When we think of vitamin A, most of us picture clear vision, a strong immune system, and healthy skin. And that's true. Vitamin A is essential for our survival. It helps us see in the dark, it fortifies our defenses against infection, and it plays a role in reproduction and growth. Without it, the body falters. But here's the paradox: when this fat-soluble vitamin moves from necessity into excess, the very nutrient that sustains us can begin to quietly harm us, sometimes in ways that are difficult to detect until it's too late. Unlike water-soluble vitamins, which the body can flush out through urine, fat-soluble vitamins like A accumulate in the liver and fatty tissues. Over time, if intake is too high, they reach toxic levels. The numbers are striking. Chronic intake of 25,000 to 33,000 international units per day for several months can lead to toxicity, far above the recommended daily allowance. To put this in perspective, the upper safe limit for adults is about 3,000 micrograms, or roughly 10,000 IU. Exceeding that on a regular basis is where problems begin to appear. Not just mild ones, but issues involving the liver, the nervous system, the bones, and importantly, the cardiovascular system. One of the hidden dangers of vitamin A toxicity, what we call hypervitaminosis A, is its impact on the heart and blood vessels. Excess vitamin A can cause abnormal calcium deposits, even in heart valves. That calcification stiffens tissues that should remain flexible, forcing the heart to work harder to pump blood effectively. Over time, it can create conditions that mimic or accelerate heart disease. In other words, too much vitamin A can transform an essential nutrient into a risk factor for cardiovascular decline. Now here's where the trap really lies. Most people don't realize they're consuming too much. They aren't intentionally overdosing on supplements. Instead, it creeps up quietly. For instance, liver is one of the richest sources of vitamin A, and in small amounts, it can be highly nutritious. But it's also so concentrated that eating it frequently in large quantities can overwhelm the body. Add to that high-dose supplements marketed for skin, vision, or general wellness, and suddenly, without even knowing it, you're far above the safe threshold. It's also important to separate the forms of vitamin A. Preformed vitamin A, found in animal products and supplements, is the one that carries the highest risk of toxicity. On the other hand, beta-carotene, the plant-based precursor to vitamin A, found in carrots, sweet potatoes, and leafy greens, is much safer. The body converts only as much beta-carotene into vitamin A as it needs, creating a natural safeguard against overload. That's why diets rich in colorful vegetables rarely lead to vitamin A toxicity, while supplements and concentrated animal sources can. The lesson here isn't to fear vitamin A, we need it. But like many things in health, the dose makes the poison. It's not about eliminating this nutrient from your life, it's about respecting its limits. The body thrives on balance, not excess. So my encouragement to you is simple: if you take supplements that contain vitamin A, check the label. If you eat a diet heavy in animal liver, consider the portion size and frequency, and if you believe more vitamin A will supercharge your health, pause and remember that your heart, your bones, and your liver may not agree. Sometimes the most profound act of self-care isn't about chasing more, it's about knowing when you already have enough. Balance protects us, and in the case of vitamin A, balance may be the difference between nourishing your heart and silently straining it. For decades, vitamin E has carried a reputation as one of the body's great defenders, a powerful antioxidant sweeping away harmful free radicals and guarding the heart from oxidative stress. It has been promoted as the supplement that keeps arteries supple, slows aging, and lowers cardiovascular risk. And because of that image, countless people reach for high-dose vitamin E capsules, believing they are protecting themselves from heart disease. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. When taken in excess, this so-called heart-friendly vitamin may not only lose its protective role, but can actually contribute to the very problems we hoped it would prevent. The idea seems almost contradictory. How could something known as a shield against oxidative damage transform into a threat? The answer lies in the details of dose and duration. At normal dietary levels, through nuts, seeds, leafy greens, and healthy oils, vitamin E is safe and beneficial. But when consumed in high doses, especially 100 milligrams per day or more over long periods, evidence shows a very different picture. Studies have linked such intakes to worsening chest pain in people with angina, elevated blood pressure, accelerated plaque buildup in arteries, and an increased risk of hemorrhagic stroke. In other words, the very supplement people take to protect their hearts may end up stressing them instead. The mechanism behind this shift is both fascinating and sobering. Vitamin E in large quantities interferes with vitamin K, a nutrient critical for blood clotting. By disrupting this balance, excess vitamin E can increase the risk of dangerous bleeding. At the same time, high levels appear to promote processes that accelerate atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of arteries. It's as though the body's fine-tuned symphony of nutrients is thrown off key, creating disharmony that echoes through the cardiovascular system. And this reveals a bigger truth about health: more is not always better. We're conditioned to think in linear terms: if a little bit helps, then a lot must help more. But biology doesn't work that way. The body is not a machine that benefits from constant overfilling. It's an intricate network of checks and balances. When we overload one system, we inadvertently disrupt another. That's why the antioxidant shield of vitamin E can at high doses turn into a blade cutting in the opposite direction. So what does this mean for you? It doesn't mean that vitamin E is bad. It means that vitamin E needs to come from the right sources, in the right amounts. When you eat a handful of almonds, a serving of spinach, or use olive oil in your cooking, you're providing your body with vitamin E in a natural balanced form, one that works in synergy with other nutrients without tipping into harm. But when you isolate it, concentrate it, and consume it in doses far beyond what the body was designed to handle, the story changes. The takeaway is simple, but powerful. Be cautious with supplements, especially fat-soluble vitamins, like E. Use them only when medically indicated and under professional guidance. The heart doesn't thrive on megadoses of single compounds, it thrives on balance, diversity, and moderation. Sometimes the wisest path to health is not about amplifying a single nutrient, but about trusting the orchestra of whole foods, where nature has already done the balancing for us. And when it comes to your heart, that balance may be the most protective force of all. We live in a world where the shelves of every pharmacy and grocery store are lined with bottles promising health in a capsule. Bright labels boast of stronger hearts, sharper minds, and longer lives, all compressed into a daily pill. It's tempting, isn't it? The idea that you can sidestep the complexities of diet and lifestyle with one swallow. But when we look closely at the science, the story becomes very different. Large clinical trials have consistently shown that vitamin supplements, especially in high doses, don't deliver the heart protective benefits we once hoped for. In fact, some do just the opposite. Take a step back and think about this. If supplements really were the key to preventing heart disease, we would have seen dramatic declines in heart attacks and strokes since their popularity surged decades ago. But we haven't. What we have seen are mounting reports of overdoses, unintended side effects, and the quiet realization that the human body was never designed to thrive on isolated, concentrated nutrients. It was designed to flourish on whole foods, where vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants work together in harmony. One of the major risks with supplements is the false sense of safety they create. A label might promise all natural, but that doesn't mean harmless. In fact, the supplement industry is far less regulated than pharmaceuticals. Dosages on labels may be misleading, formulations may vary, and the upper safe limits are often exceeded without consumers realizing it. Harvard Health, Johns Hopkins, and WebMD have all highlighted cases where excess supplementation not only failed to help but actively harmed, leading to liver damage, kidney strain, and cardiovascular complications. And the harms can be broad and insidious. Too much of certain vitamins has been linked to irregular heart rhythms, increased plaque buildup in arteries, and added strain on the heart muscle itself. Stories have emerged in mainstream media of people who turn to supplements as a shortcut to health, only to find themselves dealing with strokes, organ damage, or chronic fatigue. The very thing they believed would make them stronger was quietly weakening them instead. Here's the irony: the solution is often far simpler and far more effective. A plate filled with colorful vegetables, fresh fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and lean proteins provides nutrients in the exact combinations the body evolved to use. Nature already figured out the formula. Carrots don't just offer beta-carotene, they offer it with fiber, water, and a network of plant compounds that balance absorption. Leafy greens don't just provide vitamin K, they provide magnesium, calcium, and antioxidants in a ratio that supports cardiovascular health. Compare that to a capsule delivering one isolated megadose, and it becomes clear why whole foods are the better path. So the message here is not that supplements are useless. In certain situations, like correcting true deficiencies, they are invaluable. But the misconception that more is better has misled millions. Health doesn't come from chasing miracle pills, it comes from honoring balance, from respecting the body's wisdom, and from choosing foods the way nature intended. The next time you feel drawn to a bottle promising vitality, pause and remember, your body doesn't need more, it needs enough. And enough is found not in megadoses, but in mindful eating, in variety, in moderation. That's where real, lasting heart protection lives. When it comes to supplements, one of the most important truths is also one of the easiest to overlook. Safety always comes first. We live in a culture that loves shortcuts, and vitamins are marketed as just that, a quick path to health. But every nutrient has an upper limit, a point where it shifts from being helpful to being harmful. And that's something we cannot afford to ignore. For example, niacin can lower cholesterol in certain cases, but take too much, and it can damage your liver. Vitamin D is crucial for bone and immune health, but consistently high doses can lead to kidney stones and even calcification of arteries. Vitamin A supports vision and immunity, but cross its threshold and you can develop bone pain, liver toxicity, and cardiovascular issues. These are not rare anecdotes. They are well-documented outcomes of exceeding safe limits. Now here's the challenge. Most of us don't know where our personal levels stand. Some people are deficient in vitamin D because of limited sun exposure, while others have naturally high stores. Some individuals may metabolize vitamin A faster or slower, meaning that the same dose affects them very differently. That's why testing and medical guidance are so critical. A simple blood test can tell you where you are on the spectrum. Without it, supplementing becomes a blind experiment, and your health should never be treated as guesswork. Unfortunately, the reality of the supplement market doesn't make things easier. Labels are often incomplete. Manufacturers rarely emphasize risk. They highlight benefits in bold letters, but the dangers, if they're mentioned at all, are tucked away in fine print. Business Insider and other health outlets have pointed out that consumers are left without clear warnings, which leads many people to assume if it's sold over the counter it must be safe. But history has shown us otherwise. Plenty of legal substances from tobacco to trans fats were once considered safe until the science caught up. This doesn't mean supplements are bad. Used wisely, they can save lives, they can correct deficiencies, support recovery, and serve as a bridge where diet alone falls short. But wisdom is the key word. Safety comes from knowledge, from testing, from personalized advice, not from blanket assumptions. The goal is not to scare anyone away from supplements, it's to encourage a mindset of respect, because when we respect the potency of what we put into our bodies, we use it with the care it deserves. Imagine approaching supplements the same way you would approach medicine, with clear information, guidance from a professional, and an understanding of the risks and rewards. That's the shift we need. And it's not about fear, it's about empowerment. It's about making choices that are informed rather than impulsive. It's about knowing that your body is unique and that what works for someone else may not be right for you. So the next step is simple but powerful. Before reaching for that bottle on the shelf, pause. Ask yourself, have I checked my levels? Have I spoken to my doctor? Do I understand the safe limits? By doing this, you transform supplementation from a gamble into a tool that supports your health rather than undermines it. And here's a thought worth carrying with you. The wisest choices are not the ones that promise the fastest results, but the ones that respect the balance our bodies were designed to keep. That balance is where safety lives, and it's where lasting health begins.